months. I've clocked up a bit over 500 kilometres, and so far it's been a really good ride. Trouble-free, no drama, and what I like about it, I'll just break it up into two things. It's a nice handling little bike. It's a even for 155cc, it weighs 130 kilos, and it's got a seat height of 765, I believe. Now, as far as things go, even though it's only a 765 seat height, it sort of spreads your legs a bit, so it's not like if you're riding an actual motorbike. If you're on a seat height of 800 and you can put both feet flat, for some reason on scooters they've got a bit of a spread in the seat there, and when you sit on them it sort of spreads your legs out a bit more and they're not as easy to get hold of, but as far as plant your feet on the ground. But once you get going on this little one, it's just like a glorified push bike with a motor, because it's so easy to get on, ride around, zoom around, and have a lot of fun with it. And best thing about it's got really good handling on it, so it's really nippy. You can rip it through the traffic, you could say. You can cut through that quite easily, and if you see anything like potholes and that coming up, you can swing it left and right. You have no trouble at all, because it's such a nice little lightweight bike to ride. Now, it's got safety features too. It's got dual channel ABS braking. It's also got traction control, and it's got a stop-start system where, I've never used that one myself, but it's there in case you ever want to use it. So, as a rider's point of view, like the seating position's a little bit on the hard side, but we'll get into that later. But it's more upright. You got your platform there for your feet, and if you want to, you can park your feet forward and use the like a 45-degree angle where you can throw the legs to give you a little bit more stretch room. I've tried that a couple of times, don't like it much, so I haven't used it at all in that line. So as far as things go, the mirrors are pretty clear to see out of. There's no trouble whatsoever seeing out. The only problem is they catch your elbows in the mirrors when you're looking behind you, and you have a little bit of trouble seeing what's going on behind you. Now, the way out of that would be to put extensions on the stalks of those mirrors and give you an inch or so clearance, and you see how you're going that way. Now, another thing about these X-Max, or this particular one, I don't know what the other ones are like, when you kick them over, they've got some sort of a starter motor system where they're very, very quiet. So they just kick over with just like no, compared to a motorcycle where you hear the starter motor gauge and then crank it and then fire the motor. These just kick over with no effort whatsoever, and the exhaust note, I would say, from this scooter is not what you call inspiring, so it's not, nothing to get excited about. But the main thing is, once you get mobile, if you've got to go for the anchors, the dual channel ABS works really well. The front one, brake alone, is okay to slow you down a bit, but if you go for the left brake, which incorporates the dual braking system, like front and rear, the ABS braking system, it's a savage one. So if you combine everything at once, it'll slow you down very, very quick. Now, it runs on 13-inch rims with tubeless tyres, which is a plus, because where I'm planning on riding out along the road and that, a tube tyre bike or scooter, whatever the case would be a bit of a hindrance, and that means I can bring along my air pump with me and puncture repair kit, and if I get any drama out along the road, well, I can at least have a go at fixing it myself out there rather than being caught. Now, the other side of it is the suspension. I wouldn't class as really good in stock form because, I do find it hits the bumps a little bit hard up front and the steering. Now, while we're on that subject there, I believe that these come with 10-weight steering oil in the front section, in the front suspension. So I'm going to pull the forks out later on, and I'm going to change that fluid to 20 weight, and I think it should ride the bumps a little bit better from the initial hit there. So I'm planning, that's going to be one mod. Now, another mod I'm planning on doing, I've already got rid of the factory shocks, which I didn't think they were much, and I did the modifications to another set of shocks I had, but they're working pretty good, and the bike sort of handles pretty well with that mod to those shocks. And the shocks only cost me $95, and I was just curious, could you improve over the stock for $95, which I did. So I was happy with that side there, but in the meantime I ordered a set of YSS rear shocks for it, which I'll be putting onto it. So that'll be mod number 2. And then number 3 will be I've ordered a more touring type seat, because I do find that seat is a little bit hard on the bum, you could say, after you've been on a little while doing a little bit of a run. So they're the three areas I'm working on, like front suspension, rear suspension and seat. And I think it'll be ready then to tackle the great outdoors, you could say. I can get out there and give it a bit of a burst. Now, we'll talk about performance-wise. Performance-wise, out along the road, at the moment I only run it, say, anything up to 80. I might do the odd burst and take it to 90 for, 5 or 10 seconds, if that's the case, and then drop back to 80 again, because I'm only running it in. I find that, I'm very surprised how well this little 155cc 15 horsepower bike goes. It is unreal for 130 kilos how well it holds along, how it can push well into the wind with not much, all that much acceleration. And I think it's a very impressive little package for what you're getting. So I think as far as things go that way, the performance is adequate. It's very quick off the mark too. And I haven't been anywhere near full throttle or anything like that. I only use, 1/3 to half at the maximum, and I'm very happy with it there. So once it's running properly, I'll be able to get out there, and I don't think I'll have any trouble at all. Where I live, cruising around at 100 kilometres an hour on the back roads, and I plan on taking it out on some 200 or 300 kilometre runs. So that's the idea there. I filled up the tank going back a few days back, and the flashing light came on at 210 kilometres, and I think it'd be very close to the empty stage now, which would, the tank itself holds 7.1 litres, so that puts me at around about, I don't know, with bits left in it. I think it comes in at 1.7 litres. The fuel light starts flashing, and then after that it goes into a countdown. So I would say, from now on when I'm riding it, I'd be looking at going to a refill every 200 kilometres, so it'd be a good idea to set your trip meter. I don't think it's a good idea to ride the bikes if you've got a flash and fuel light or a countdown, because one thing that can happen with these bikes or scooters, whatever you're doing, if you ride them like that and all of a sudden run them out of petrol a couple of times, you may be lucky the first time, but you may not be lucky at all, and you may actually burn out your fuel pump because it overheats and gets hot, naturally, because it's usually sitting in the petrol and keeps cool. So that's one thing, and it's a good idea to try to avoid that problem. The other thing, number 4 would be actually not number 4. 2 things I'm going to fix straight off the bat. I'm going to buy one of those optional sort of extra foot, you'd call them, it fits on your side stand thing to give you a bit more planted, fittings, like when you put your side stand out, and it'll give you a little bit more stability when you stop the bike and park it, and you got no risk of it sort of tipping over. But what I don't really like about in the Nmax, and all scooters I suppose in particular, is you've got to be very careful when you put the side stand down that the side stand, or you're not on the slide angle, and the side stand moves the bike forward and the bike falls over on you. So I don't know what could be done there. I was looking at it and I was thinking it's a fairly flimsy spring system there. It's a wonder they haven't tried using a heavier duty spring to hold it up and, give it a little bit more stability. So that's one thing I was looking at. Number 2 would have been on the front mudguard, the back of the mudguard or towards the motor would be very short there, and it's got a habit of, by the looks of it, of picking up mud, dirt, anything else and throwing it onto the motor or maybe into the motor. I'm going to put a extra mud flap defect on the back section of that one there to stop rubbish going into the front part of the motor, which may cause issues further down the track. So they're 2 things I'm going to work on shortly. And the next thing would be when it gets up to the 1,000 kilometre mark, I'll do my own oil change, and I'll probably be doing regular oil changes on this because naturally these bikes haven't got what normal bikes you could class as having an external or an additional oil filter. All they got is that oil screen inside the bottom of the motor, and I think a smart idea with a scooter like this one would be to give it regularly oil changes compared to just taking a risk and saying, oh well, I'll change what I want to, because The other thing I'm just wondering, I don't know if it's available at the moment, whether or not, there is the option of the, you could pick up a magnetic sump plug and fit one of these to it, because I used to run the magnetic sump plugs on the CT125 trails in the Honda range and a couple of the other bikes, and they do a really good job on bikes which haven't really got what you class as really good filtering systems as far as ones that have got the external oil filters. So, these are the few things I've got going at the moment. I've had this bike out at the moment, or scooter out, with two up on it, the wife and myself. So I'm 5'9", weigh 85 kilos. The wife's a bit over 5, or around 5 foot with 50 kilo weight. I found that around here I could run along, around 80 kilometres an hour. So we'd done well in that line there. So, overall I'm very happy with the package. And here in Australia, these come in at $6,250 right away. And for that, you get a LED headlight. Not sure about the tail light, but I think the indicators are just bulb ones. The other thing I thought was pretty good too is the windscreen on these ones does a pretty good job at blocking wind hitting you in the face, compared to actual motorbikes I've been on, where you've had mini screens on them and they still hit you. So I've really been impressed in how it works in that line too. So between, the seat and position, the steering, and wind protection, overall it's a really good little package, and I'm really enjoying my riding experience on the Nmax 155, so or Nmax 155, whatever you'd like to call it, or just call it the Nmax, and some people call it the Nmax version 2.2, or depends on what part of the world you're at, I suppose. But overall, everything's interesting. It's got not an easy to read display, so there's no problem there. Everything's sort of right in front of you. Oh yeah, the storage space, I think it's 23.5 litres under the seat. It's not huge, but it's good enough for me to put some roadside cooking stuff in there, and a drone and a couple of other things under there, and I can go out with a full tank and maybe carry an extra 1 litre of petrol with me just in case, and I think I could have some really good days on this one. This is a good first off, I think, hit of the review on a bike that's done a bit over 500 kilometres, and hopefully you'll come back and want to look into it and see how I go with on these few of these ventures we got planned to get out and give this bike a little workout. So overall, I appreciate it if you've managed to hold in this long to listen to what I've had to say about the bike, and I've put on different footage of that and a bit of drone. I've even done a little bit of off-road sort of dirt running along a track where I had to go from one point of a bitumen road over to another one, and it handled that pretty well too. You could feel the traction and control engage on slippery sections along that one there, where it sort of bogged down and got into it, no wheels slip, and away it went. So overall, pretty impressive little package for the price, and I think I'll get a lot of fun out of it, and I hopefully see you guys back here again. And don't forget, if you're really keen, sub to the channel. I'm pretty sure you'll get a fair bit of interest in it, and we'll call it quits on this one, and bye for now.